Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a concept that's, well, it's pretty bold, maybe even a little audacious,
Right.
right from the title. Making offers so good, people feel stupid saying no.
That's such a powerful hook, isn't it? It immediately makes you kind of lean in and wonder, okay, what's the magic here?
Yeah,
How do you get that level of perceived value?
exactly. And the source material we're looking at for this deep dive, it gives us a really unique angle on that idea. We're digging into the Amazon page for Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Offers, How to Make Offers So Good People Feel Stupid Saying No.
Ah, okay. So our source isn't just book content itself, but all those layers of information about the book presented right there on the page.
Right.
Things like the author's own summary, the editorial reviews, those popular highlights people picked out, and of course the customer feedback.
Precisely. So our mission today is really to pull out the core concepts presented on that page. The frameworks they claim work, the specific methods people are highlighting, and the results folks say they've gotten. We want to understand this whole approach to creating what the source calls irresistible offers, and maybe think about how it could apply beyond just like selling stuff, how it might impact your own efforts to provide value in any kind of exchange.
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix we've got. You
Mm.
get the author's take on how powerful these ideas supposedly are, the promise of, actionable steps inside the book,
Right.
and then you get that feedback loop from people who've apparently tried it out. Should give us a pretty well-rounded look, all coming straight from that source page.
The story presented on the page, it often kicks off with the author's own background. He makes this pretty striking claim about starting from rock bottom, where his business was struggling so much he apparently couldn't even give services away for free.
Yes, that tough start is really positioned as the catalyst for everything.
Hmm.
He claims that by using the methods the book talks about, he went from basically losing money to generating really incredible returns, something like making $36 for every $1 spent.
Wow.
And that was over a specific period noted as 48 months.
And the scale of the claimed success is just massive. The source mentions generating over $120 million across 4 different types of businesses, too.
Yeah, service businesses, e-commerce, software, and even like regular brick and mortar stores.
Which is quite a range.
What's really interesting about those claims is the context they provide. The source explicitly says this growth didn't initially come from, super sophisticated marketing.
Right. None of the usual stuff.
No great funnels, no huge ad spend right at the beginning. And they apparently didn't even use email marketing until they already hit like $50 million in sales.
So according to how the author positions it on the page, it wasn't the typical marketing playbook driving that growth. It was this one core idea, creating offers that were just undeniably good.
It's presented as the main lever, the
Absolutely.
absolute key. And then the rest of the page, the book description, it starts to unpack what the book supposedly teaches you to actually create these kinds of offers.
Okay, yeah. It seems to break down into a few main areas. First, there's this whole idea of being able to charge significantly more money. This section highlights frameworks like the tiny market, big money process, which sounds like focusing on specific niches for high revenue, and something called an unfair pricing formula.
Yeah, and that formula is claimed to dramatically bump up prices while, surprisingly, also increasing the rate people actually say yes.
See, that feels counterintuitive, doesn't it? Usually you think higher price, fewer takers.
Exactly. But the source suggests that the right kind of higher price, when it's framed correctly, can actually pull in more buyers. It mentions concepts like the value flip.
Okay.
And the idea there, just based on the name, seems to be about shifting the perspective. Instead of letting people compare your price feature by feature with a competitor, you sort of flip the focus onto the huge value or the return the customer gets, which makes the price seem almost small in comparison to that outcome.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just the number, it's the story you wrap around it, the context. And the description also mentions the virtuous cycle of price.
Right, suggesting that being able to charge more lets you invest more back into the offer or the delivery.
Which then improves it.
Which improves it, exactly, creating this positive feedback loop. Charging more isn't just about profit, it's fuel to make the offer even more compelling.
Okay, got it. Then the source talks about making your actual product or service so valuable that people will figure out a way to pay for it. This seems to involve the unbeatable value equation.
Yeah, and that one's actually highlighted quite a bit by reviewers, which tells you it resonates.
So what is that equation, basically?
Well, based on the customer feedback summaries, the value equation is roughly value equals dream outcome multiplied by the perceived likelihood of success,
Okay.
all divided by time delay multiplied by effort and sacrifice.
Huh.
The insight there is, well, it's pretty profound, actually. Value isn't just about what you think you're providing. It's a calculation happening in the customer's head.
Right.
You boost value by either making their dream outcome bigger or better, increasing their belief that they'll actually achieve it, or, and this is key, by drastically cutting down the time it takes and the effort or sacrifice involved for them.
So it's much more than just adding features. It's about engineering the whole experience for the customer, getting them the result while minimizing their hassle, their pain points.
Precisely. The source also throws out terms like the delivery cube for efficient delivery and the trim and stack hack.
Right. That trim and stack one had some huge claimed profit figures tied to it, like $17 million profit on $28 million revenue in a year.
Yeah, massive numbers.
Hmm.
Now, the Amazon page doesn't fully spell out how these work, obviously, but the claim implies that optimizing how you deliver the value is just as critical as the value itself.
Okay, so figure out how to price high by focusing on value in niches. Build a genuinely valuable thing by optimizing the outcome and delivery. Then the third piece seems to be enhancing the offer itself to really push people to buy without thinking twice.
Yeah, this is where the psychology seems to really come into play. The source highlights techniques like the scarcity stack, supposedly using 3 types ethically,
Ethically, okay.
and the everyday urgency blueprint to create time pressure, but based on real factors, not just fake countdown timers.
It also mentions unbeatable bonuses designed specifically to handle common objections.
Melting away hesitations.
And God mode guarantees. And the source says you stack 4 types of guarantees, even gives examples. How does stacking guarantees make an offer irresistible? What's the thinking there?
Well, the idea presented seems to be about removing almost all the perceived risk for the buyer. If you offer multiple layers of assurance, maybe, like a satisfaction guarantee plus a results guarantee, maybe a guarantee about the timeline,
Gotcha.
it's tough to feel like it's almost impossible for the customer to actually lose out. The book claims to teach how to structure these effectively, so the decision becomes less about the risk of buying and more about the risk of not buying and missing out on all that guaranteed value.
And the source really emphasizes how effective these methods are claimed to be. So simple, so instantaneous, and so effective, it's as if they work by magic.
Right.
And the telltale sign you've nailed it, according to the page, is when prospects just cut to the chase and ask, what do I need to do to move forward? Before you even ask them to buy.
Yeah, that specific phrase, what do I need to do to move forward, is highlighted as the ultimate signal. It suggests the offer is just so obviously valuable and low risk from their side that they've already made the decision internally. They're just asking for the next step.
Okay, shifting gears slightly from the author's claims and the book outline, let's look at what readers themselves flagged as most important, those popular highlights on the page. One of the top ones simplifies business growth down to 3 basic levers.
Yeah, that's a classic. Get more customers, increase their average purchase value, and get them to buy more often.
Right. And how does that connect back to the offer idea?
Well, it fits perfectly, doesn't it? A truly great offer, an irresistible one, should ideally hit all 3. It should attract more people in the first place. It should justify a higher price, increasing that average value.
Yeah.
And maybe, if it delivers well, it leads to repeat business or upgrades, hitting the buy more times lever.
Makes sense. Another really popular highlight focused more on persuasion. It said something like, the point of good writing is for the reader to understand. The point of good persuasion is for the prospect to feel understood.
Ooh, that's powerful. What's interesting there is how it shifts the focus,
Yeah.
It's not just about clearly broadcasting your message. It's about really connecting on an emotional level.
Yeah.
It suggests people are persuaded when they feel like you genuinely get their problem, their dreams, their situation, which ties right back into that dream outcome part of the value equation we talked about.
And then, maybe not surprisingly, the single most highlighted sentence on the whole page is just the core idea itself. Make people an offer so good they would feel stupid saying no.
Yeah, it's the mantra, isn't it? It clearly hits home and anchors the whole methodology the book claims to offer.
Okay, let's look at the reviews now. Both the editorial ones and the customer feedback seem to largely back up these claims, right? Forbes pointed out the author's sort of unconventional success and the system for upping prices and wowing customers.
And that testimonial from Ryan Daniel Moran was pretty strong too, calling it a game changer, claiming it gives you the confidence and clarity you need,
Right.
and suggesting that if you struggled before, it wasn't your fault. Maybe you just didn't understand how to craft a really compelling offer.
And there was that Andrew Argue review. That one was really specific and frankly dramatic. He claimed that just by putting the pricing and packaging ideas from the book into practice, his business basically doubled its run rate instantly to $10 million a year.
Wow, instantly doubling.
Yeah, with projections hitting $23 million. And this is key. He said they were simultaneously getting better results for their clients.
See, that testimonial, if it's accurate, is a powerful illustration of that core claim. You can potentially increase both your price and the value you deliver at the same time.
And the customer reviews, when you look at the AI summary on the page, they paint a really consistent picture, don't they? Lots of praise for the quality of the info, how easy it was to read, the actionable strategies, and just overall effectiveness.
Yeah, common themes pop up again and again in the feedback. Things like taking complex topics and making them simple. People saying they gain the confidence to actually charge more.
Right.
Or completely overhauling their pricing based on the book. Finding the strategies tangible, practical. People call it a field manual, a master class, making the game of business finally make sense.
The feedback about value for money is interesting, too. It's almost like meta.
Totally. Readers felt they got huge value from the book itself, which is kind of an example of the book's own principles at work, right? An offer where the value feels way bigger than the price.
Yeah, exactly. Reviews mention boosting revenue without necessarily working harder, building a business with more conviction.
And the effectiveness is described really broadly like a powerful tool that works in any industry and leads to unparalleled success. People generally seem to like the writing style, too, finding it engaging, easy to digest, not a lot of fluff.
It seems like the communication style, both on the page and apparently in the book, really clicks with readers. It delivers these, potentially complex strategic ideas in a way that's easy to grasp and, importantly, seems easy to actually put into action.
That actionability seems key.
What really struck me, though, going beyond just the business context, is how the source material hints that these principles could apply much more broadly. There was that one customer review specifically saying it's more than just a business book.
Yes, that the lessons are applicable in loads of other parts of life.
Yeah. What were the examples they gave?
Well, they gave some really compelling ones, actually, like applying it to finding a job, thinking of yourself and your skills as a grand slam offer,
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
or using that value equation framework to understand and maybe achieve personal goals more effectively. Even applying the principles to social stuff, like giving away goodwill generously as a way to be liked.
Huh. So the underlying concepts are presented less as niche marketing tricks and more like universal principles. Principles about understanding what drives people, how to structure value so it's perceived clearly, and how to reduce friction in pretty much any kind of exchange or goal pursuit.
Exactly. The framework seems to offer this lens you can use to look at any situation where you're essentially proposing something, a product, sure, but also your skills for a job, an idea you want people to adopt, and figure out how to make it incredibly appealing from their point of view.
Okay, let's start to wrap this up then. We've done a deep dive into the Amazon page for $100 offers, really exploring how that source material presents this idea of crafting offers so valuable they become, well, irresistible, and how that supposedly leads to pretty significant business growth and maybe even broader life success.
Yeah, and the key claimed benefits that jump out from the source material are pretty clear, aren't they? The ability to charge a lot more,
Right.
to attract customers more easily because
Yeah.
your offer is just undeniable, to boost revenue and profit, maybe without just working harder and harder.
And building your business or chasing your goals with real confidence, real conviction.
Exactly. And critically, as we saw in the reviews and highlights, there's this suggestion that these aren't just business tactics. They offer a potential framework for how you present value in all sorts of areas of your life.
Yeah, from your career to personal goals.
The core idea, as is presented in the source, really seems to boil down to this: intensely focusing on understanding what the other person truly desires, their dream outcome, then meticulously working to reduce their perceived risk and the effort they have to put in, and finally packaging it all up so the value is just overwhelmingly clear.
So clear that saying no feels almost illogical. So here's a final thought then. If making an irresistible offer really boils down to deeply understanding what someone else values and then delivering that in a way that strips away their perceived risk and effort, where else in your life could applying that kind of thinking create a true win-win? A situation where the other person feels stupid saying no, not because you pressured them, but just because the value you're offering is so incredibly, undeniably obvious.